making, can you even see them? Oh, there you go. Today we're going to be making these crochet fingerless fishnet gloves. They're really easy to make because all you really need to do is make a rectangle of this fishnet pattern and then sew that rectangle, or sew the two sides of that rectangle together so that you can kind of like slip your hand through it. I actually already made a video, or tried to make a video, when I made these a few days ago, but then I completely forgot to end the video because I was in such a rush to make them because I wanted to wear them immediately after when I went to a holiday festival with my mom, and I was just like rushing out the door, so I didn't really remember to finish explaining how to make them. But it's okay because it's always good to have these in other colors, and today I'm going to make them in a dark brown. And I also kind of feel like I notice things already that I would change about these, even though I already fixed these ones from the first pair that I made, which I made like a year or more ago. The other ones that I made were actually one of the first crochet things that I ever crocheted, and those ones were just really messy. They're really long up to here, and I just don't really like them that much. So I wanted to make better ones, and these ones are definitely better, but like I said, I already noticed things that I could change. So one of the things I needed to change is make them a little bit longer. I wanted them to be short, but I feel like these are a little too short. And then the other thing is, after you make like the main part of the whole thing, you can kind of like finish the edges, like this edge and this edge, by single crocheting all the way around. And I only did that for one edge for this pair, which I feel like works, but it would be a lot better if you finished it on both ends, because finishing it with single crochets makes it kind of like more tight and less likely to slip off your hand. So I'm gonna do that as well. So basically, it's a really easy pattern, and it starts with a foundation chain, and the foundation chain is going to be as long as you want your glove to be. So it starts about right here, and then it ends wherever you want it to end on your arm. It also has to be a multiple of 3, however many chains you do. So you can do like, you're not going to do 3 because that's just like that tall, but 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and so on. For these ones, I did 27, but I didn't think they were long enough, so I'm going to add 2 more sets of 3. So that's 33. So I know I said you have to do a multiple of 3, but whatever multiple of 3 you choose, just remember that mentally, and then also add 2 more chains, because that's how it'll work for our pattern. So I'm going to do 33 chains plus 2 is 35 chains. Alright, then once you've done your foundation chain, you're going to single crochet into the chain that's right next to the last one. And then this kind of starts our pattern. So after you've single crocheted, you're going to chain up 5. And then we're going to connect that to our foundation chain by making a single crochet 3 chains down. So skip 3 chains from the single crochet that you made. Skip 3 chains after that. 1, 2, 3. And then put a single crochet into that 3rd chain. So I guess you're not skipping over 3 chains, but you're just putting it 3 chains down. And then we're just going to repeat that. So chain up 5. And then single crochet 3 chains down. And then we're just pretty much gonna repeat that until we get to the very end of our chain. Since we were, really specific on the counting of our foundation chain, it should 100% end at the very last chain. If it doesn't for any reason, you might have counted wrong when you were making the foundation chain or when you were doing the pattern. So yeah, it should end at the foundation chain. Or what? It should end at the very first chain of the foundation chain. All right, and then once you've finished single crocheting into that very last chain of your foundation chain, it should look a little something like this. Kind of silly looking. Kind of like a noodle. And then we're going to continue going the other way. So flip our work so that we could crochet along the row that we just made. And here it's pretty much the same pattern, but instead of single crocheting into the foundation chain, we're single crocheting into the rows, into the small rows of chains that we just made. So start off by chaining up 5. And then you see that from the row below, there's this section of 5 chains. So we want to single crochet into the middle of that. In the middle of 5 chains will be the 3rd chain. So just count the 3rd chain, 1, 2, 3, and then single crochet into that chain. And then do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to single crochet into the next section of 5 chains. And if you're a little confused on how to find the 5th chain, just remember that each chain kind of looks like a V. So 1, 2, 3. It looks like a V from the top, from the top. All right, and then I'll show once more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then single crochet into the middle of that next section of 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 3rd chain. And that's pretty much the pattern for the rest of this row and for every single row after this until we reached the desired height. And whatever height we get, remember, is going to be like the width, however many rows we end up with is however many we need to go around our wrist. So with this one, I did 9 rows of the scalloped rows that we're doing, so not counting the foundation chain. So I'm going to do 9 with this one as well because it's the same size yarn. I forgot to mention that this is a size 4 yarn that calls for a 5mm crochet hook, so that's what I'm using. So I'll meet you back at the end of this row just to show you kind of how to turn the row again, and then it's pretty repetitive from here. All right, so we're almost approaching the end of the 2nd row of the scallop thingies. So you should start to kind of see that fishnet look come together. I just have to finish the very last one on the end. So chain up 5. And then it's just the same thing. We'll make a single crochet into the 3rd chain. And then it's just the same thing that we did when we finished the last row. We'll turn our work so that we can continue crocheting in the opposite direction. And it's the exact same pattern. So chain up 5. And then single crochet into that 3rd chain from the 5 chains of the row below. Chain up 5. Single crochet into the 3rd chain of the next sequence. And then we'll just continue this and continue making more and more rows until it's our desired width to go around a wrist. It might take some trial and error before you can for sure say that you've made a glove that actually fits you. For this one, I started with about more than 10 rows, and it was way easier to fit over my hand, but once it was actually on, it felt really, really loose. So I made it a lot tighter, and it's a little trickier to get over my hand because, your hand is tighter than your wrist and everything, but it's way better than being too loose, So I'm going to go ahead and do the same amount that I did for this one. So that's going to be 9 rows, not including the foundation chain. And I will meet you back when we finish the 9th row. Alright, so I'm done crocheting the 9 rows of the scalloped pattern. And this next row is kind of confusing. Like, it's not that hard to do. It's just like, I don't really know how to explain it. It just works, and it works. So you know how we started with a foundation chain? Well, basically we want to be able to line this side up with this side so that it's easier to like join them together. So since we started with a row of 27 chains, we're basically going to do the same thing and connect this whole side with 27 chains, kind of. It's really hard to explain, like I said. So also, when we started, we made a single crochet in every 3rd chain. So we're kind of going to do the same thing and make 3 chains in between every, like, section. You'll see when I do it, okay? So we're going to start off with chaining 4. Just chain 4. Just fucking chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in the middle of the sequence of 5 chains from the row below, we're going to slip stitch into the middle one. So there you go. And that's kind of like the 5th chain, even though it's not really a chain. It just helps us keep the same count as this side. So we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 more chains, which is 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then our 8th chain is in the middle of that next sequence of 5. So that counts as our 8th chain. And so basically, if we keep doing that throughout the rest of the row, it should end up at 27. Actually, no, it ends up at 29, and I don't really know why. It just does. It just does. Hi, it's me, Joanne from the future, editing this video. I don't know what I was saying and where I got those numbers from. I mean, I know where I got those numbers from. It was from my last pair of gloves that I crocheted, but like, I'm just making everything really confusing. So basically, what we're doing is making 2 chains and then slip stitching into the middle of the 5 chains from each scallop below. So it's going to be chain 2, slip stitch into that middle 3rd chain, chain 2, slip stitch into that middle 3rd chain, and continue to the end. The only reason why it begins with chaining 4 instead of chaining 2, to be honest, I don't really know. It's just that I tried to chain 2, at least when I did it before with my crochet fishnet top, and it didn't look good. It kind of looked really tight and like it wasn't the right amount of chains. So then I tried doing 4 and it seemed like it worked. So that's why we start off with 4 instead of 2, but I hope that makes more sense. So the pattern for this last row is chain 2, slip stitch into the middle of the 5 chains, chain 2, slip stitch into the middle of the 5 chains, and then just continue until the end of the row. 9, 10, 11 inside of this one. So remember, we're slip stitching, not single crocheting. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And you can kind of see how this is lining everything up with the bottom because, like I said, when we started with the bottom, we were single crocheting into every 3rd chain, so we're trying to kind of connect it back and slip stitch into every 3rd chain. Well, not into every 3rd chain. You get what's going on, right? I feel like it makes sense. I just don't know how to verbally explain it to make it make sense. But there you go. And there you go. So I'm at 20. And I'm just counting to kind of make sure that the count is where it should be. 21, 22, 23, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Oh, wait, what? Yeah, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. Okay. Okay, yeah, so I guess we don't end up with our initial chain number, but we end up with the initial chain number plus 2. So if you started, I started with 33 plus 2, which is 35, so I ended up by counting 35. So it lines up. And now you should have a little rectangle of this fishnet pattern. Alright, so we're eventually going to end up crocheting this together by like folding it in half and then crocheting along there. But before we do that, we want to finish up one edge, the edge that our crochet hook is already on. So this edge right here. And the way we do that is just by going along the side and making 2 single crochets into each little hole. So this is the first hole, then this, then this, then this. Big, small, big, small, until the end. So 2 single crochets each. And then I'm at the end. So once you've single crocheted the last 2 into the very last hole, you're going to want to connect the last one that you did to the very first single crochet that you did on the other side. So kind of like wrap it around and then just find wherever that first single crochet is from where you started, and we just want to slip stitch into that one. That way we join it in a circle and there's not going to be any weird gaps once we're done with the whole thing. So slip stitch. And so now we have those 2 connected. And now it's going to make us ready to start single crocheting along this end. So like I said, it's already pretty much folded for you. And now we can just line up our pattern really easily because we made it so that the top and the bottom are pretty much perfect. You can't really see, but like the holes line up perfectly. And so it's going to make joining these 2 ends together a lot easier. So just join the holes at the top as I'm doing, so that you only have to really, put your crochet hook into that whole thing. And then we're going to single crochet 3 times into each of these holes. So 1, 2, 3, and then into the next hole. 1, 2, 3. And we've already started connecting that side. And by the way, we're eventually going to turn this inside out, so don't worry about how it's bulging out, because this is just how we're joining the 2 sides together, and this will be on the inside. And then just finish making 3 single crochets into the rest of the holes. They should line up exactly the same, so there shouldn't be any like awkward spaces that you need to put your crochet hook into, because everything should line up pretty well. Alright, this is what it looks like when you finished single crocheting along that whole side, and it's pretty much almost done. All we have to do is single crochet around the other end to finish that side up. But this is a really good point where we can actually kind of just try it on and see if we need to do any backtracking. To be honest, I might, because it kind of feels like it's going to be tight. Let's see. Like I said, it's usually a little hard to get over your hand because your hand is big. I didn't turn it inside out yet. It looks okay, but it feels kind of tight. So just to remind you, I made this one with the same size yarn, I think, as this. If it's not the same size, it's almost the same size. And I made it with the same crochet hook. But I made this one with 27 chains to start with. And I made this one with 33 chains to start with. So it's longer. Because it's longer and I feel like I have really small wrists and then my forearm gets big really fast, it's kind of tight. But hold on. Since I didn't finish up this end yet, I'm thinking if I just wear it the other way, it might work, because since this doesn't have that finished end, it's a lot looser, and then this will be tighter where my hand is. So let's try that first. So it does feel a little better worn this way. And because I don't want to start over, I think I'm just going to leave it like this. I feel like it looks cool, right? Except that part. But fear not, I'll show you how to finish up the end, just in case you still wanted to do it. Because if this part for you is loose for any reason, it helps to finish up the ends like we did with the other side. It makes it a little bit tighter. I'm not going to do it, but I'm still going to show you how to do it, and then I'm just going to like remove it from mine, like frog it afterwards. But it's pretty easy. It's just what we already did. The only difference is instead of working with like a straight line, it's already in a circle, but we're not really doing anything different. So our crochet hook is at the end of the seam that we just made along the length of our glove. And now we're just going to turn it and work along this side. So if you remember, all we did was single crochet, or make 2 single crochets inside of each hole. So there's like a small hole and then a big hole, another small hole, another big hole, and we'll just single crochet 2 inside of all of them. Also, my tail end from where we started crocheting happens to be right here, so I'm just going to take the opportunity to just weave that in as I'm crocheting. So all I have to do is like kind of hold that and crochet around it so that it's being tucked into where you're crocheting. I guess it doesn't matter because I'm going to frog it afterwards, so I'll still have to weave it in. But if you happen to want to finish it like this, then you can tuck in your little end as you're crocheting the last part. So 1 and then 2. Alright, and then once you've done your 2 single crochets into the last hole, we're going to do the same thing and slip stitch into the first single crochet where we started, so that these aren't just like not connected and there's like a weird gapping. So find that first single crochet and then just slip stitch into it. And now it's nice and tight. And then the last step, whether you end here or whether you ended a while ago with me, the last step is to just pull your yarn through, which makes a knot. Pull it through, cut it, and then weave this end in. Since I'm not going to do that, actually, let me try it on again. So I tried it on again. It fits pretty much the same. Like, it's going to be tight either way because I didn't really factor in the part. I didn't really consider that this part of my arm is like way bigger than this part of my arm. Anyway, I think I'm just going to keep it like this because even if I didn't finish up the end, it's going to be tight anyway, but finishing it up makes it look a little bit more pretty. So I think I'm going to keep it like this. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So now all we have to do is weave in the ends. I already weaved in one of them, and I just have to cut off the excess. Where is that? And so now we just need to weave in one more end. I'm just going to weave it alongside this. And it's done. Now all you have to do is turn it inside out. Alright, so every time you wear it, the seam should obviously still be on the inside of your arm. I mean, it's up to you, but I feel like that's where it kind of looks best, since usually, you know, the outside of your arm is showing. So I'm gonna try it on one more time.
Get installed in this town without me knowing about it. But
I'm actually so happy with this. Like, at first I was like, I don't know about the length, I don't know about the tightness. But once it's actually on, even though it's a little bit tight, it's not really uncomfortable. It's like a good amount of tight that just keeps the glove where it's supposed to be, rather than, like, you know, falling and slouching and stuff. But it's not too tight. It's not like, ouch. And I love the neutral brown. I'm very much a brown girl. Not like a brown girl, like a brown girl. I am brown, but I love wearing brown is what I mean. Like, you know how some people like to wear black, they're a black clothes type of person. I'm a brown clothes type of person. But I also don't prefer to wear brown. I prefer to wear like colors. But when it comes to like darks or neutrals, I like to wear brown. Why am I over-explaining this? I love brown, okay? This is so cute. Who made this? I made this. Now I have to make another one, okay? Okay. Goodbye. Alright, well, these are the gloves. Why am I acting as if I've never worn these gloves before? I have like 2 other pairs already, so there's not really any surprises for me. But I really enjoy these gloves, and that's why I've always wanted to make another pair, and I'm actually really glad that I made it, because once I made my fishnet top and kind of learned how to line up the beginning of a fishnet pattern with the like end row of it, I feel like I knew that I could make these gloves a lot better, because my original ones, let me just show you. My original ones are a little silly, and no hate at all to the person whose pattern I used, because she's kind of the one that introduced me to that fishnet pattern, but it was a little tricky to not follow, but to make look clean, I guess. And that's simply because of the fact that she just had like the foundation chain, the scalloped rows, and then the tutorial was to connect that last scalloped row to the first one just by kind of like loosely lining it up. But I feel like by doing what I did with mine, it kind of makes it a lot easier for the final thing to come together. So I'm really glad I redid it, because I don't know, I just feel like it's a lot easier of a pattern than it was to start with. Also, this one's just really ugly because I barely knew how to crochet when I made this. It's too long, looks a little funky, like you could, you know, put a carrot in this and keep it warm for the winter. But I love this one anyway, and I wear this one even though it's a little silly. I just wouldn't wear these with like anything short sleeved, whereas the ones that I made, the white ones as well as these ones, I feel like I would. But I feel like they look a lot better with long sleeves, at least for me. Well, anyway, if you're done with your fingerless gloves, let's do a fingerless glove high five. All right, goodbye.